Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Just stop the share before we start. We have been joined here by Mr. Khaitan. Mr. Khaitan, good evening and welcome, and thanks a lot for giving time and speaking to us regarding your experience with leadership and other things to come, which we are eagerly waiting to hear. Before we request you, there are a few formalities we need to go through, so I'll just start very quickly. Welcome, Mr. Khaitan. Welcome amongst us is our Joint Treasurer, Mr. Vibhor Tandon. Before I request Mr. G.M. Kapoor, who is going to moderate the session today and is going to be with Mr. Khaitan, talking to him after the session starts and after he finishes the speech. May I request Mr. Vibhor Tandon, who is the Joint Treasurer of Calcutta Management Association, to kindly welcome the gathering and give a small inaugural remarks. Sir, it's up to us.
Mr. Khaitan, Chairman of the SNK Group, members of the Executive Committee of Management Association, all of you have gathered here, very warm and a very good evening. This initiative of ours of Calcutta, I believe, is that there is sunlight, even when clouds are there, for all of us in our lives. When we hear personalities, people with tremendous amount of experience, people of the caliber of Sri Khaitan, we are able to realize that even in challenging times, in troubled times, and in good times alike, it is always possible to lead a wonderful and successful corporate life, to be successful in your career, in whatever profession you are into, if you are putting in the required amount of efforts, putting in the required amount of sincerity, devotion, and you are following your quest of constant knowledge. I believe that this is going to be a very, very interesting session for all of you. And I'm sure the insights shared by Mr. Khaitan are going to enlighten us and show us the path, show us new, of course, share with us a lot of new wonderful ideas and empower us both on personal and professional levels to ensure that we are able to reach our desired goals. I am happy to welcome Sri Khaitan, Chairman of the SNK Group, to this very session today evening, and to have very listeners of this entire session. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tandon. Thanks a lot.
Am I audible? Am I visible?
Yes, Mr. Khaitan, you are both audible and visible. I will just take a minute to introduce you formally. But before that, I would like to welcome your homecoming to Kolkata, because that is where your roots were, if I'm not mistaken. And again, of course, been a long time, but you may recall some common friends here. I remember one Arun Seth in Hastings, who was my neighbor. So we have spent time together. It's been a long time, as I said, you may not recall. But when I saw your name and your introduction, I said, I must say hello to you before we start the formal session. So anyway, welcome back to Calcutta, Kolkata. It was Calcutta then. And I do hope, and I'm sure we will have a very meaningful interaction. And
Sir, Mr. Kapoor, before you introduce, just one small announcement for the participants. Since we'll be having we must be having a Q&A session at the end, we would request all of you to kindly put your questions on the chat box, and I'll be sharing it with Mr. Kapoor, who is the executive committee member of CMA, and he'll be taking up the questions at the end of the session. So it's not all up to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Anirban. I just, as I said, formal introduction. Mr. Anil Khaitan, a chairman of the SNK Corporation, attended Vincent High School, Mussoorie, and thereafter completed his BCom degree and joined family business in 1976. He qualified his MBA from IMI Geneva in the year 1981. Mr. Khaitan has diversified business experience relating to jute, paper, pharmaceutical, copper, and steel, apart from his international operations. Amongst the companies which are in his fold, Shalimar Industries Limited, which is in jute and tobacco, Shalimar Wires Industries, which is in paper, Sunil Healthcare Limited, which empty hard gelatin capsules, HPMC capsules for healthcare industry, and Ayurvedic formulations. Alpha Vitus OPC Private Limited, digital marketing. And then the US operations, Doorcraft Products Incorporated, customized kits for kitchen cabinet industry, Atlanta, USA. Cosmo Cabinets, cabinets and doors, again, Atlanta, USA. Industrial experiences of 45 years and various offices he holds apart from his business. He has been the former president of PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He is a member of the Managing Council of Management, IMA, independent director, ICSI RVO Board of Directors, member of YPO Gold, member Governing Council, New Delhi Institute of Management, Chairman, Executive Committee of Women Innovator, member of Industry Advisory Board, Amity University, Distinguished Member Advisory Council, AASGON, GSEF, Africa, Asia Scholars, Global Network, Global South Economic Forum, Chairman, Governing Board of Indian Social Responsibility Network. That is a lot of activity. I am wondering how he manages to find time to fit everything in. But there's more. He's fond of golf and tennis. And I think this is why he is being able to manage everything. His philosophy of life, in addition to business expertise, Mr. Khaitan has always had a great zeal to learn and experience the nature and life around him. His favorite quote, "The only thing perfect in the world is nature," has been truly followed by him in his personal life and adventures. His hobbies of athletics, sports, and yoga keep a fit body. Reading and quest for learning ensure an agile and open mind. And meditation and interest in music and theater bring about his creativity and calmness in temperament. For him, life is a continuous journey, and he aims to achieve excellence in each sphere of life. So we have a lot to learn from Mr. Khaitan, and it's over to you. We wait eagerly to hear.
Thank you so much, sir, for such a beautiful introduction. Yes, you are very right. It is homecoming because, as we all say, Calcutta is Calcutta. And a Calcuttan, at least I can speak for myself, cannot live without Calcutta. And it's my pleasure that you invited me so we could have a conversation. Times are very turbulent. We have turbulent times on the economic front. We have turbulent times on the financial front, especially for the medium and small corporates. Then we have political turbulence to whatever extent we would like to describe it. And lately we've seen, the social turbulence also increasing, a lot of hate monging, a lot of unnecessary back and forth on the social media, which is not needed because I think it's better to always remain focused on your purpose of life and keep moving towards your destination rather than getting defocused, because the moment we get defocused, we are ruining our own future, because God doesn't make our destiny. We make our own destiny. God has already taught us how to make our destiny. The question is to walk on his road. And leaders, people who have succeeded in life, they precisely do that. When leaders don't have two extra horns or two extra heads, it's certain qualities they have. They have an inner balance. They have a gravitated thought process. Their personality itself is confident. It's a bit difficult to shake them from inside. They might look a bit perturbed from outside, but inside, I know they are very calm. Because taking you a bit spiritually, we each human being, there are 8 powers which we have, which are inherent to our soul. For example, power to withdraw, power to decide, power to discriminate. So like that we have, I just mentioned, 3 powers, power to accommodate. So like that we have 4 more powers. Now these are the 8 powers. You can just Google it and all the 8 powers of the soul will come. And if you seriously think on those 8 powers, and unless you use those powers, unless you strengthen those powers, it's very difficult to be a leader. Because there's a very famous English saying that if you don't use it, you will lose it. So we have to use the powers to exhibit the leadership skills. And that inner balance, that equanimity of the mind is needed in today's volatile situation to make a rational decision. I don't say all decisions can ever be 100% right. But when I say rational, I mean they are well thought out, well consulted, and from a 360-degree angle, who all will be affected are also involved, so that the implementation becomes easier of the decision. Because one of the key factors of leadership, which I'm very, very particular about, and that is implementation to the power of infinity. We human beings just talk. I say walk your talk. If you can talk, then you can also walk. And we jolly well can. But we have this mind of ours which makes us procrastinate, which makes us lazy. So we got to basically get out of all that. And now I'm going to be very general in my talk. So forgive me sometimes if I talk a bit on spirituality, and then I'll get to hardcore business also. Now, let's say after the pandemic now, what would a leader or an owner of a company be doing? He'd be seeing his order books, he'd be seeing his finances, he'd be seeing his input material, what are his stock items, what are the vendors going to supply, his total finances, his manpower. So the entire aspect of all the functions of running an organization has to be seen by the owner to the extent of the size of the organization, which he had pre-pandemic. And during the learning period of the 2 years of pandemic, whatever that learning he wants to implement, then with that implemented learning, he has to put that whole organization structure, because the world has changed after the pandemic. So the leaders have to realize that, and they have to make people working in companies also realize it. It's not that the people working in companies don't realize it. They realize it equally well. But in the context of the company, that is the job of the leader to handhold the people, especially now, because each one of us has gone through a lot of mental torture. It's okay for people who live in big houses, large houses. But what about people who live in a one-bedroom apartment or a two-bedroom apartment? How would they have lived? For at least for the bad part of the corona, when the nation was going under major lockdowns. Now, example, lockdown finish, factories have opened. Naturally, with this 360-degree view, then you just can't switch on and you'll have light. You'll have to then again restart the whole operation. And we all know the pain of restarting, especially closed operations. It's very easy if from 100 you're running at 70 and then to take it back to 100. But it's very difficult from 100, you have to close down because of lockdown, you have no inputs and you have no customers. Workers can't come, so you can't produce. So naturally, you have to lock your factory down. I mean, and as it is the law of the government. So you have to basically do it. Now, another general issue which you have now observed, and that is worldwide inflation. This worldwide inflation is really killing all economies. It's killing India. Yesterday, you saw the CPI figure. That was again 7%. July was, I think, 6.3. August was 7. We've seen inflation abroad, huge oil price increases. So it is eating into the pockets of an average Indian. That will affect our demand holistically. I'm not saying for the entire sector of industry, services, and agriculture, but certain sectors will definitely get impacted. And you can already see the FMCG sector today. I've read a lot of articles where they are feeling the impact of demand in this quarter. I'm also anxiously waiting, and I'm sure all of you are also, to look at the FMCG companies' results for the July-September quarter. Now, due to this, the increasing pattern now, or the trend of interest rates, because America, again, I'm telling you, Fed is going to raise the interest at least by 0.75%. Because I think personally that Mr. Jerome Powell, the Fed Reserve Chairman, I mean, if he does that, I mean, he's going to really create havoc in the whole world economy. Because today you cannot neglect America. And India also. In the next credit policy meeting, I think it's in the month, I think it's on 28th of September. So we are expecting again RBI to raise the repo rate by 0.5 or by 0.75%. And we in the corporate sector, this is just a small digression, but since you people are all belonging to the corporate sector, you know, what is quite hurting is that if Reserve Bank reduces the repo, let's say by 50 basis point, the effective remission to the industry by the banks would be only 30 basis point. So we always ask the question, why? That total reduction has to come to trade, industry, and commerce. Banks have no right to keep that with them. But so is the case. We've been talking from various industry associations for at least 5-6 years, as I know, but still there is no impact. Anyhow, getting back to the main point. So one is we must all be ready for an increased interest regime for the next at least minimum 3 years. Sector-wise impact. I don't want to get into sector-wise impact, but a lot of sectors have been hugely impacted negatively. A lot of sectors have been impacted positively. So we won't get into that. One thing good, definitely, which happened during the pandemic were the rollout of these Atmanirbhar packages, about 9 or 10 packages, which were rolled out. And in a process of huge reforms, the government announced, say, reforms in the space industry, reforms in defense, privatization of banks. And I don't remember, to tell you frankly, but I had made a list of about, I think, 81 or 82 reforms they had done. Yeah, another big reform for us in the industry was the PLI scheme for 13 sectors. Say our pharmaceutical business, we qualify for the PLI scheme. And that's a good scheme. That of my increased sales of the base year, which is 1920. So if my sale was 100 rupees in 1920, and from financial year 23-24, if my sale becomes, say, 120 rupees, then on that 20 rupees, the government at the end of the year will send a check to my company, a 6% of 20 rupees. And that incentive, the production linked incentive, the company, I think, will get for 6 or for 8 years. So that is why production linked incentive, more you produce of the products which are needed by the government of India to make India Atmanirbhar, only those products have been taken, and 18 sectors. I can tell for pharmaceutical sector because I am in pharmaceutical, electronics, and there are many more. Another good feature about our country, and that is why our country has been targeted by IMF and World Bank and most of the external agencies as the fastest growing, largest economy. Our projection is India should realistically grow at about 6.5%. And the prediction for China, which I read the last report, was about 4.5%, because China has really taken a big hit because whatever kind of policies their government followed during the pandemic and so on and so forth. So in India, the biggest advantage we have today is political stability. And political stability is needed for business. And with Mr. Modi in power, we have had political stability in the last 8 years. And the biggest stability is the number of seats the present government has, which gives the present government immense respect, immense power in the eyes of all the developed countries. It is we, the voters, who have made whichever government comes in power, but if they come in power with majority, we are giving the government that authority to talk with power and not talk with any kind of a cowardice with any country on this planet. Coming now straight, I'll go function-wise. I'll talk for a company. Now, finance now, in the turbulent time. The biggest issue is working capital. How would you manage your working capital? That's a very key thing. And the best, I must say, the government has done is the ELCGS scheme, which I'm sure all of you are aware of, where right for companies, for professionals like doctors, chartered accountants, and I don't know who all, but they've covered the entire gamut, that 20% of your sanction limit as on 29 February 2020 your banks will give you the money, and the government of India stands guarantee, and the promoter has to give no collateral, they have to give no margin. And that money in the big scheme, which got announced later on, I think it was scheme number 2, from then onwards, they made the amount repayable in 5 years. 2 years was moratorium, where you only paid interest, and then the remaining 3 years you paid principal and interest. So that was that is a tremendous good scheme. And now we at Delhi are canvassing that I'm sorry, that 20 was raised to 30. So now we are canvassing to the government that to still give boost, if they could raise it to 50%. And I think about a month ago, you must have seen that 50,000 crores government had given in this scheme exclusively for the hospitality sector, for the contact-based sector, hotels, etc., hotels, tourism, etc. So I think that was a great scheme, and that scheme has gone a long way in reviving, because I'll tell you the figure, out of 5 lakh crores, the last figure I read was that about 4,10,000 crores had already been sanctioned, and out of 4,10,000, 3,90,000 crore had already been disbursed. And against that, a government has also, I think, inbuilt NPA factor, that आपका सारा पैसा वापस नहीं आएगा. So I think they've taken a figure of 5 or 6%. I don't remember the exact figure, but that's a good accounting they did, that they took the NPA factor into account also, that because of the turbulent time, there could be companies who would not be able to repay back. And in that case, the money the government would have to pay to the bank. So that was a great scheme. So one basic thing I would like to advise, that a leader would first take care of the finances now in turbulent time. You have to catch 1 paisa by your teeth with the philosophy, 1 rupee saved is 10 rupees earned. Because during pandemic, especially I can say for myself, I found out there were such dirty fixed overhead expenses in my company, which were being incurred and which were not incurred in pandemic. And especially being in health sector, one of our companies, we were an essential factory. So we ran 365 days during the, pandemic. So what I was saying was this finance is extremely important. And to help us, the government has come out with this ECLGS scheme. So that is one point, and all leaders, I'm sure, must have taken action in their respective companies to take advantage of this scheme. Another great thing in the turbulent time which has happened is the changing of the definition of the MSMEs. Now from the plant and machinery based definition, which was up to 10 crores, you are an MSME, micro, small and medium, they have made it investment and turnover up to 250 crores now, turnover, and 50 crores investment in the net value of plant and machinery. If you come under that, you are a MSME. Based on that, Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman had once said that based on this new definition, about 98% of the registered companies in India today would come under the definition of MSMEs. And MSMEs have found a great flavor because government knows that without MSMEs, India can never be a 5 or a 10 or a $30 trillion economy. And that is in every country. Small and medium businesses form the backbone of any economy in terms of manufacturing, in terms of employments, so on and so forth. So please control expenses. And this has to be done for the next 2-3 years. It's something like you're in the aircraft and the aircraft has gone into a thunderstorm and the captain says, fasten your seatbelts. That's all what we got to do. Fasten the seatbelts and just keep walking. Because what has come bad, good will also come. So it is just night and day, night and day. There's nothing to get despondent about anything. Coming to marketing now. Now, since the economies are opening, especially in India, as economies are opening, now say the Indian economy today, Indian economy is totally open. Now it's like, I mean, you don't even feel like, I don't even feel there. I mean, there is, I mean, there was a corona. It would be wrong to say that, but what I'm saying is that the feeling of corona is not there. Especially I can speak for, I mean, Delhi. Here hardly there is a feeling that there is any corona, and everything is opened up, everything is physical, virtual also is there. Because yeah, another big change I find is a hybrid culture, where now you have both the physical and you have the virtual. Now coming to customers now, the customers basically, see, when the economy is open, your suppliers will also open, your customers will also open. So it will be a spiraling effect. So that already has happened, and all sectors have started to sell, started to buy, their collections have started to come. Because you what today? आज आपका business क्या होता है? आप raw material खरीदते हो, आपके पास technology है, आपके पास factory है. I'm talking from the factory point of view. आपके पास factory है, आपने factory में you have made the material, you have got a customer, you have sold the material, you have made some profit hopefully, and you have collected the money, and the cycle goes again on and on and on and on. That is why we call working capital, because your capital is constantly moving. From raw material, it has moved into WIP. From WIP, it has gone into finished goods. From finished goods, it has gone into sundry debtors. From sundry debtors, again, it has gone into cash. And from cash, it has again gone into raw material. So it keeps on working in that circle. And today I'm saying, in the turbulent time, even if you break even or make a little bit of profit, but must remain liquid. If you can make your business that ideal situation, even at the cost of profit, but no loss, please. Otherwise, you will slowly, wither away, slowly, I mean, die away. Another big issue now, which is very turbulent, and that's very turbulent, honestly, that is international market, our exports. We shouldn't be happy with this figure of 413 billion and of this highest exports and all, because we have to factor in there how much was the rupee devaluation. The biggest problem in India's exports today is our product mix. We are still, major export is raw material. We are not exporting finished goods, value added, what China is doing. And you all know, raw material is maybe 50% of the total cost of the sales price. What about the balance 50%, which is the value added? That the China is taking over. Anyhow, things are now changing in India. Let's not get into the past. So, but international demand is going to be a factor. And I personally feel this will be a factor till 2024, because I, at the moment, don't see any resolvement in the conflict of Russia and Ukraine. There are no talks going on anywhere. And I'm of the strong view, of course, I think all of you might disagree with me or will disagree, but I think India will play a major role in settling the dispute between Russia and Ukraine. Another major thing in marketing, that is getting your money from your customers. Because see, unless you have a match of your debtors and your creditors, which you say as an asset liability match or a mismatch, is going to be quite difficult. If you collect in 90 days and you pay in 30 days, it'll be quite difficult in this turbulent time. So even on that front you have to take care of. Another big thing now is the government of India's GEM portal, which is being run by the Ministry of Commerce. Now I think about 1 lakh or 1.5 lakh crore a month of business of the MSMEs are being done on the GEM portal. Government is getting very aggressive. And as per my last conversation, they said they are also going to bring the private sector onto the GEM portal, especially the large companies. So I asked the gentleman, what is your definition of large company? He said, you've heard the Prime Minister in his speech. He said any company above 500 crores is a large company. So we have taken that. Figure that anything above 500 crores would be a large company. I mean, that is basically mentally. I mean, there is no legal writing or something like that. But I mean, in today's parlance, whenever we go to the government, then they say कि भाई जितने भी आपके large company है वो आपके GEM portal पे हम वो सबको ले आएंगे. So that will be great. If even the private sector comes, just imagine the amount of electronic marketplace. I'm sure all of you know, today UPI, like last month, the figure was 10.25 lakh crores. I mean, the figure is mind-boggling. How much of electronic digital payment is taking across in India? I mean, the whole world is astounded that what India has done, no country on this planet has been able to achieve so far as the digital transactions are concerned. 625 crores, the entire population of the world transacted in the month of August. And the total value was 10.25 lakh crores on the UPI. So these government portals are extremely effective. And also I forgot to mention the TREADS portal. There today, if you have supplied your goods to a government company or even to a large company and you take your bill, upload it on the portal, of course, you got to register first, etc. Then you have a lot of banks on that portal. So the banks come shopping and then the various banks give you the discounting rate and they immediately discount your bill. I'm making it sound simple, but you will have to go and understand this in detail. So for the people who don't know, you must go to the TREADS. The spelling is TREADS. So you go to the TREADS portal and that is where you can get your cash payment by discounting your bill if you follow the system. But why I'm mentioning these portals is that they are very facilitative now into the new era of doing business and to help us tide over the turbulent times. Next biggest issue facing a leader today is productivity. Today, productivity is the only way to neutralize your increase of cost. Of course, I'm not saying that you can say if the oil price has gone to $110. Well, the productivity, no matter how much it increases, you might not be able to make it up. But you understand what I mean, that productivity is one of the biggest tools in the hands of management by which cost per unit, it can keep competitive and still be above water. And another issue is your logistics. Today, you must have all heard our minister, Mr. Gadkari ji. He says India's logistic cost is 14% of our GDP. And he says, I will bring it down to 8%, which is the international cost in Singapore and in Europe or, wherever. So he says by 2024 or 25, I don't remember, he'll bring it down to 8%. That's a great thing. And that we can see happening because at least in the north, I see there's huge amount of highways, etc. being made. And I think next year, it's next year, that Delhi-Mumbai highway will start. And that will be a tremendous one, a 1,300 kilometer straight national highway. So we're all looking forward for that. So once such kind of highways, etc., come and multimodal transports, so the logistic cost has to come down, because logistic cost doesn't make factories which are landlocked competitive. It's all right for factories in Calcutta, Bombay, or which are near the port. Another issue is our energy cost. Leaders will have to anticipate, and they've already anticipated, and they've already taken action, considering how the oil prices and the fuel, etc., how to keep their energy costs. But the issue is that how much can we in the private sector do? It is for the government to see. Today, why the discoms are in such huge loss? 70,000 crores was given to discoms so that they could pay to the Gencos during the Atmanirbhar. I knew that was again bad. I mean, that was good money going after the bad money. Exactly, that is what happened. That 70,000 crore just vanished in 24 hours. Now again you see that discoms, I think again their debt has piled up to 1,50,000 or 1,75,000. You can see in Calcutta only how much will be the I don't know how much will be the debt of the discoms and a CESC or whichever is the discom in Calcutta now. So anyhow, from the industry viewpoint, now see they have a system that you can bid for power. They have an energy exchange in India. Now at 10 o'clock, you can bid for power for the next 24 hours. You have to place your bid hourly, that from 12 to 1 in the night, which is basically, morning, I will consume 25,000 units. And for this 25,000 units, I am willing to pay 8 rupees per unit or 6.5 rupees per unit. So like that, you go for entire 24 hours. Now that system was working perfectly well. But what happened? The state government got pain in their stomach because, say in Rajasthan, we were buying power from the energy exchange. We were getting power landed in our factory at 5 rupees 50 paisa per unit. The Rajasthan state power was 7.5 rupees per unit. So 2 rupees a unit was the difference. So government couldn't digest that because naturally there were no customers for the government, especially the big industries. So what they did, a state has two financial powers in their hand. One is cross subsidy charges and one is additional surcharge. So they raised both of them. And now they have made the auction power 1.5 to 2 rupees more expensive than their own power. So now Mr. Modi has announced, and now the the electricity amendment bill, is in the parliament. Again, they are going to have a fight over it. Let's see what comes out, because what they are promising to all of us now is that we can buy power like we can go and buy a shirt in a shopping mall. I'm making it sound too simple, but basically that is what has been conveyed. Now you are not dependent only on 1 or 2 government agencies. They are going to privatize the discom throughout the country. And they say you can buy power, whoever gives you the best rates and whoever gives you the service and quality. Let's hope that comes, because these 2 items on the profit loss side of any company today is really hurting. One is the cost of logistics. Second is the energy cost. On account of interest, I must say government has done a great job I'm talking of the years of 80s and 90s and early 2000s. Now our interest is quite reasonable. Of course, it has started to increase because of the American factor. And another thing which is very good for India is, see, our income tax has come down so low now. Now, for new establishments, it is now 15%. And now they've extended, provided you commission your that project by 31st March 2024. And that, I'm telling you, they will further increase if they see investments coming in. So, and you can't get lower rates than 15%, let's face it. because even the universal income tax rate, which America has initiated, so to avoid all this, round tripping of money, so on and so forth. So even there, the countries have said 15% should be the minimum tax rate. So I think tax rate, India has done a great job and quite happy about it. And now comes on supply chain. Supply chain pandemic has taught us कि Baba, make your supply chain very robust. एक supplier पे dependent नहीं. Make at least 2 or 3 good, robust suppliers. Don't always look at prices. Sometimes they don't matter. By paying 5% extra, you will gain 30% extra in your net profit. Why? Maybe the quality of that suppliers is better. So I would always advocate, go for quality. Like my father used to always tell me that, look, when you invest, always invest in latest plant and machinery and technology, because investment is only once. But your operating cost will be 1 second into 365 days, and you have to be competitive. In terms of productivity has to be the highest. Your quality has to be consistent. Then you are competitive. You maintain your market share. You maintain your margins. So, that makes a lot of sense, which these elders, tell us from their experience. Now, coming to HR strategy. Now, 4 labor codes have already been passed in Parliament. All the 44 acts which were active of labor have been condensed into these 4 codes. You have Code on Industrial Relations, where your Industrial Dispute Act is the main act, and then you have other acts, I don't remember. Then you have Code on Safety, where the Factories Act is your main act. Then you have Code on Wages, where your Payment of Wages Act is your main act, and then your bonus and workman compensation, so on and so forth. And the last is wage. Yeah, then last, industrial relations, safety. Yeah, then code on this social welfare, where your provident fund, ESI, and so on and so forth, they go in. So these 4 codes are now coming. The government will now notify, but now it again depends on which state government will implement, which state government will not implement. In this code, the government has done one thing after a lot of fights, not fights, I would say, but a lot of discussions and negotiations, and the unions were quite strong on this point, that in Code on Industrial Relation, the government has brought out a new clause, a concept of fixed term employment, which means I can hire somebody for 5 years, subject to again renewing the contract for 5 years. I can again renew that for 5 years. I can keep on renewing it. But I have to pay him the normal social security, provident fund, ESI, whatever you pay to permanent workmen. But the government has said to the employers that we give you this facility, that you will put a clause in the appointment letter that your services can be terminated without assigning any reason thereof. So that is the code which is coming, Code on Industrial Relations. So on fixed term contract, and I'm sure, and I know for it, that all the foreign companies and the greenfield projects, the moment you find this is going to announce, you'll find all the companies going on fixed term employment contracts, because there you cannot have a contractor. You have to issue individual letter to each individual working for you. So, and another thing which is good, which has happened in India, I don't know if you guys have noticed it or not, that labor problems in India have reduced hugely. You hardly hear of any strikes or any lockouts these days. In my time in Calcutta in 70s and 80s and all, oh my God, it was just terrible. But there's nothing now. I don't know the scene in Bengal, but at least the scene in North, labor-wise, is quite good. So in the turbulent times, I don't think anybody is going to have issues on labor, because even the labor is affected. Nobody would like any disturbance in their income. R&D and innovation is another factor which we have to look at. Now, another factor which all of you must see is, government have a lot of MSME schemes, and therefore all sectors. And they have this MSME champion portal, which was launched by the Prime Minister during the pandemic. You can just Google it, MSME champion, and it'll just take, and then just go onto the portal. You get everything there. You even get suggested projects there. Government has even given you suggested projects that you can maybe have a look at, this project and this project and this project, etc., etc. So go and have a look at that. Another major issue will come for all leaders now is quality of your finished product, because we must have that attitude that once the finished product leaves my factory gate, it means it is like a BMW or a Mercedes-Benz going and quality being taken for granted. So India, slowly, we have to work towards that. Otherwise, we can talk anything. But until you build that trust, which might take 15 years, 20 years, because trust of quality is not built overnight. But it has started now. So we must all concentrate, and especially the MSMEs. Otherwise, I'm telling you, we are going to die our own death if we don't focus on quality. Because today, even you and I, when we buy, don't we only buy quality? अगर हमको 1% नुकसान हो जाता है, we all make such a hue and cry. So when we want quality, so does our customer. And why can't we give quality? And that's why, I remember that dialogue in the film, in Three Idiots, where Amir Khan says that work for excellence and balance everything will basically, take care of itself. Money will take care of itself. Excellence. Bring excellence in your attitude, bring excellence in your work, and always have, because see, you have, हम आपको typical बोलता है, एक typical example. आप किसी को 100 रुपया तनख्वाह दे रहा है, कोई है वो अर्ने 70 रुपये का काम करेगा, कोई खाली 100 रुपये का काम करेगा, और कोई जो ambitious, like a dynamite, he wants to go ahead, वो 120 रुपए का काम करेगा, क्योंकि उसको जल्दी है लाइफ में आगे जाने की, प्रोग्रेस करने की. हम नहीं कहते कौन अच्छा है कौन बुरा है, हम आपको खाली फैक्ट बता रहे हैं कि इस टाइप के इंसान है, मतलब हम सब है इस टाइप के. We must evaluate ourselves. Another big issue now coming for the leaders is networking. आज के दिन अगर आप नेटवर्क नहीं हो ना, यहाँ इंडिया में फैक्ट्री चलाना is impossible. Because see, whatever they do, I always tell the government, अरे भैया, ease of doing business, so we have seen how World Bank has now totally dismantled, because it became like a scam. You saw, last time what has all happened. Let me not get into that. So we are saying, make cost of doing business. Look at cost of doing business. And ease of doing business, आपने सब कुछ मतलब किया, but फिर भी today I'm telling you, the compliances are too many. And still there are every day laws. Today for a listed company, before the agenda, if it was, let's say, 20 pages in a board meeting, now it is 150 pages. The agenda size has increased so much. I really pity the company secretaries and the compliance officers, and especially on the HR front also, for the factory manager. A lot of compliances have definitely increased. Now let me conclude. Now, the way I see India going forward, I see in India, you'll find anchor companies already now coming in. Now let's say today, with Vedanta, Foxconn is coming in, a 160,000 crores investment in Gujarat in a semiconductor facility. I think it's a fantastic investment. So you will have such big investments coming in. And around these investments, you will get circles of MSME investments, because they will all be, feeding in, as we call the concept of a gigafactory. You heard Elon Musk has put up 7 gigafactories. It's the same thing, that this Vedanta project of semiconductor, it is nothing but a gigafactory. Now, 1,000 acres they have got free from Gujarat. Now, I don't know how many acres. Now, with so much of land, now they will take along with them all their vendors who are supposed to supply to them, and they'll make a whole industrial community. So it'll become a big cluster. So I see that trend coming in. Second, of course, digitization, less said the better. India is really growing great guns. Another great thing is the young population is doing great. The startup culture, already 78,000 startups have been registered at, DPIIT. In, ASSOCHAM, we did a startup round. We didn't come to Calcutta, but we went to tier 2 cities, 12 cities, where we had the startup pitches. And I'm telling you, amazing ideas these, startups have. Then we have an effective government, a government who's spending on infrastructure. Today, why you see India's economy is going about 6.5–7%. It's because of the spend on infrastructure. Because the multiplier of infrastructure is 20. And if you spend 1 rupees, the effect is of 20 rupees, because you activate so many other industries, so many other sectors around you, because they have to be your supply chain. So, I mean, that's a great thing which government is doing, because they have committed in 2019, when they came back in power, in their manifesto, they had committed 120 lakh crores they will spend on infrastructure till 2024. So all this infrastructure spend, which you see in budget, like this budget was 7.5 lakh crores. So all that is being actualized against the budgeted of 110 lakh crores. And that we are seeing on the ground. Another thing the government has to take care of, I had already mentioned in detail, was the export product mix. The export infrastructure still needs improvement. The ports need gross improvement. The turnaround time of the ships have to further reduce. Like in Singapore, it's only, I think, 5 or 6 hours. But in India, still it's about, 3 to 4 days. Now, tier 2 and tier 3, say Burdwan, Asansol, you must be realizing they are developing hugely. So those are the cities now which are going to be the future of India. And a lot of GDP contribution is going to come from these cities. Now you see the credit cards and debit cards. It's been a huge usage now. And the credit growth, which I'm going to tell you, was about 15.1%. In that, credit card is one of the major reasons of the credit growth in India. Because if you swipe a credit card, it is credit. That's why I'm not talking about debit card. Now the impact of e-commerce, Amazon, Flipkart. I mean, today housewives, even in a village, in their own language, they'll say, "Bhai, amma jaan se manga lo." So it's become so easy now that sitting at home, you get whatever you want delivered to you. So e-commerce is really now taking the case. Contact-based sectors are doing hugely well. In fact, the hotels are sort of penalizing us as to why the pandemic came. I'm telling you, no hotel, a 5-star hotel north of Delhi is less than 25 to 30,000 rupees a day rent, and plus 18% GST and your lunch and dinner. And another thing I have noted is that now we have seen investors are now buying properties. They are investing. So one thing is good. Housing sector has picked up. Now, broadly, the corporate's balance sheet, even the government balance sheets are improving. Now, if you see, you must see this interesting figure. If you've not seen it, just go to Google and see it. What is the corporate profit, total profit of corporate India as a percentage to GDP? Last year was the highest. It was 11.3%. I forget the exact figure. I think it was 11.5 lakh crores, or 10.5 lakh crores, something like that. So that was a corporate profit of the listed companies, which the government could basically, get their, hands or their figures or whatever. So another thing which will now come is a CapEx, capital expenditure focused fiscal policy. And that is very important. That जो अपने को चाहिए उसी पे कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर हो और फोकस्ड कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर हो और ये फोकस रहे कि टाइमली प्रोजेक्ट कमीशन हो. आज भी, even in Modi government today, I can tell you 434 projects are delayed and the cost of the delay is 4,38,000 crores. So the country can't afford such things. We can't. Because the size of our budget is too small. What is the size of India's budget today? 24, 25 lakh crores? Nothing. Interest you are paying 8 to 9 lakh crores. You need at least 40 lakh crores. Unless you get 40 lakh crores of revenue, it's not possible to keep the budget balanced. Country is working towards it. We all have to work towards it. There's no point complaining. But I'm just raising an issue for all of us to seriously consider as a citizen of India. And in view of what the Prime Minister is now focusing us on, is our duties towards the nation rather than only asking for our rights. Another major issue is India's capacity utilization in industry has gone up after the pandemic. Now it is running at 76.5% on an average. Before the pandemic, I remember it was at 75%. Now the impending festive season, after the Shraddh period are over, Navratras are all starting, all in Calcutta, then all Diwali, Christmas. So now all the festival season is starting. So I'm quite hopeful and bullish that, things will start moving and especially the small companies would start doing much better. I mentioned about the credit growth at about 15.1%. And so in short, that is all what I had to say. I don't know if I made any sense, but don't worry. I mean, I am very bullish about my country and I'm very happy to be a born Indian. And I feel very comfortable being an Indian. And I know it, that India is going to make it. And every country had their time. After 1945, it was a time of United States. Till then, it was primarily the United Kingdom. Then it was China. From 89, if you see, the GDP of India and China in 88 was exactly the same. But then China did what it did. Doesn't matter. India is doing it now, and we will do it. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you, Calcutta Management Association.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Khaitan. It was indeed a great learning experience. And what I would like to just add is I see a lot of optimism in you, and that is infectious. I think we all listeners, participants would get the feeling that things are not so bad as some people make out to be. And while the times have been turbulent, but yes, the light is definitely shining now. The light is at the end of the tunnel, and we do hope to see better days. And as you have mentioned, I think the government is also trying to be on the right track. And I am sure we will get where we are headed. A couple of questions which have come through, which I will ask. During the turbulent times, when all leaders are looking at cost control, do you think the spend on learning and development or training would also get curtailed by organizations?
No, I don't think so. I feel evolved company would never do it, because to me, learning is an investment. It is not an expenditure.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that is the answer to that question.
Okay. Fine. I hope that answers the question. And the next question is about multitasking. In the pandemic, a lot of multitasking had to be done. So there's this gentleman who's asked, do you think extensive multitasking by an individual employee impacts the productivity negatively?
Oh, yes, definitely it does. It is not humanly possible to multitask on a consistent basis. Even if you can do it for 96 hours, I think you're a superhuman. So I think it's better to always remain focused in life, because a focused person goes places and a scattered person is always a multitasked person. So you can't go with a scattered and a cluttered mind. So to answer your question, I think it is definitely negative, and you should avoid multitasking and you should remain focused. And I've already coined this word, like Mahabharat, कि Arjun ka focus, baki sab bogus. So keep your focus. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Very succinct. I think we will all go back home with a lot of takeaways. And I'd like to convey my sincere thanks to you, of course, to start with, for sparing your time and sharing your vast experience and knowledge. I would also like to thank AIMA, as well as the participants who have been with us all through, and their organizations and institutes, and the patrons of CMA. Tata Steel and Tata Tiscon, who are the sponsors of this event, I convey my special thanks. So thank you very much, Mr. Khaitan. And if you're ever in Calcutta, it'd be a great pleasure to catch up with you and maybe talk of old times.
Where is your office?
My office is CMA, or my personal office?
No, I mean, CMA.
CMA office is in the Bengal Chamber buildings.
Okay, Bengal Chamber. Right, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay.
So much.
Good night, everyone.